Does Herbalife Joint Support really work? It has a famous brand behind, but it doesn't look as good as the other chapters. So, is it really worth the money? Well, here's my review. Hi guys, it's Ali from Her Recommendations, coming up with health guides and supplement reviews, so make sure you subscribe to my channel. You can save this full review on my website mysupplementadvice.com. Check the first link from the description box. Getting back to Herbalife's Joint Support, I'm going to start my review with a really quick summary on it, so this is perfect if you're in a hurry. And then I'm going to start analyzing all of its aspects and chapters. Herbalife Joint Support is not a classic joint supplement, and by this I mean that it's not necessarily focused on healing pain. Instead, it's designed to increase flexibility and to boost cartilage health. So, it's more of a general joint supplement. One of the best things about it is that it's made by such a reputable company as Herbalife, but it doesn't look as good as the other chapters. Its ingredient list is pretty basic. It doesn't have an excellent customer feedback, and surprisingly, it's also quite expensive for its actual quality. Now, it surely has its own good points and its own good side, but at this point, it's not one of those joint supplements that I would recommend. I personally would go for a cheaper supplement with a much better formula and much better ingredients. It's true that that product doesn't have such a trustworthy brand behind as Herbalife, but it surely has some other advantages, and this is probably the reason why it is a lot more expensive even though it has a higher quality. Now, if you want to find out more about that alternative, I am going to tell you more about it later on, but you can also find a link in the description box. This being said, I'm going to get to my full Herbalife Joint Support review, and I'm going to start by telling you this product's claims and company behind. One of the things I like most about Herbalife's joint supplement is that it doesn't make any unbelievable promises. Instead, it only claims real things that it can actually do. According to its description, it supports joint health in general. It protects against aging cartilage wear. It enhances flexibility and comfort. And it also has some other additional benefits. As for its producer, I'm pretty sure you heard of Herbalife before. I'm actually a big fan of its products because they are all made from herbs, and Herbalife has a really good reputation overall. It's been on the market for a really long time, and it's regarded as a trustworthy brand and producer. But as I said before, despite being a fan of its products in general, this joint supplement kind of disappointed me. So it's surely not a product I would recommend at this point, especially if I had to compare it with other joint supplements from the market. As I said before, Herbalife's product has one of the weakest formulas I came across lately. It has really low doses, and its ingredients have pretty much a low potency. Now, I have to tell you that Herbalife Joint Support is mostly based on 3 active ingredients: glucosamine hydrochloride, scoot root, and minerals. So I'm going to start by taking a closer look at each and analyzing their benefits when it comes to joint pain. Glucosamine is probably the best compound when it comes to damaged cartilages. That's because it's the only substance that can repair and rebuild damaged cartilages, and it can also prevent a further tear. However, things don't look as good in Herbalife joint supplement. That's because the form of glucosamine it contains isn't the best, in my opinion. It contains glucosamine hydrochloride, which is pretty much a weaker form than the sulfate form, which you can find in most quality joint supplements. That's because glucosamine sulfate has lots of positive studies behind it. And on the other hand, the hydrochloride form, the one that you can find in Herbalife's product, has some pretty weak results in studies, and it also has very little clinical evidence behind it. And there's one more thing. the dose of glucosamine hydrochloride in Herbalife supplement is quite low. They are only 500 milligrams, while most quality supplements contain about 1500, so there's a big difference in this. When it comes to scoot root, I have to be honest and tell you that this is the very first time I hear about this ingredient. I also checked out on the internet and I could not find much about its joint benefits. Apparently it does have some anti-inflammatory benefits, but they are mostly for intestinal inflammation and for skin problems. Scoot root also seems to have some antimicrobial properties, but as I said before, I could not find much info about its joint effect. That's why I don't really know if you could count on this ingredient in terms of joint effect. As for the minerals, there are actually 3 compounds in Herbalife's products, like selenium, copper, and manganese. Now, none of these compounds have some actual studies and clinical evidence behind when it comes to their joint effect. So this is why I don't think you should count too much on them, just like scoot root, just like in scoot root's case. Overall, I see Herbalife Joint Support's formula as a pretty weak and basic one. As I said, most of its ingredients don't have any clinical evidence behind and may pretty much have some low doses. The only compound that might help is glucosamine, but it does not come in the strong form in the sulfate. Instead, you can find it only in the hydrochloride form, which is considerably weaker. And it also has a pretty low dose compared to other supplements on the market. That's why, in my opinion, Herbalife Joint Support's formula is pretty weak and disappointing. So in terms of joint effect, I would not expect a lot from it. Herbalife supplement doesn't look too good at this chapter either. That's because the pills it contains are pretty different from most supplements on the market, and I'm saying this in the negative way. Now, most supplements contain gelatin pills which have average dimensions and they are quite easy to swallow. On the other hand, Herbalife supplement contains tablets which are pretty much thicker and they are a lot more hard to swallow. Now, its actual pills have some larger dimensions, and since they don't have a gelatin cover, their taste is not hidden, and according to some users, it's quite sour, so it's really unpleasant. That's why these pills are quite hard to take on the long term, especially if you compare them with a classic joint supplement. When it comes to dosage, Herbalife's supplement doesn't look any better either. That's because it requires 3 pills per day, and according to its label, you have to space them out for best results. This means you have to take one with every meal. On the other hand, most joint supplements on the market require only 2 pills per day, which is a lot easier. So I can actually praise Herbalife's supplement at this chapter either. In case you were wondering how Herbalife Joint Support works, well, I checked out and analyzed its Amazon reviews, and in this way you could actually see how it works for real customers. First of all, I have to tell you that I could find very few reviews on Amazon on this supplement. There are actually only 35, so it's pretty hard to draw some conclusions about it based on such a low number of reviews. But even so, I did my best. Now, surprisingly or not, Herbalife's product does have some positive reviews. Here's what most of them say. Some people say it really helped with their pain. Others claim their flexibility got better with this supplement, and there are also some saying that it does work, but it actually takes a longer time. To be honest, I didn't really expect to see as many positive reviews on this product, so it's clearly not as bad as I thought, and it actually works for some users. So you should keep this in mind. But as I somehow expected, I also managed to find lots of complaints on Herbalife Joint Supplement. Most of them were related to a weak or poor effect and that the fact that results take several months to appear. But by far the most shocking complaint was the ones that were related to its authenticity. And by this I mean that some people claim that the product sold by Amazon is not the original version, is not the same as the one that is sold on Herbalife's official website. And to be honest, I pretty much expected those complaints related to its effect, but those claims about its authenticity were quite shocking to me because Amazon tends to sell original products, so I never actually questioned this. But when it comes to Herbalife Joint Supplement, you should definitely keep this in mind, and you should think twice about buying it from Amazon, because I pretty much think that buying it from its official website it's safer. Overall, Herbalife Joint Support has a really low number of authentic reviews on Amazon. That's why it was hard for me to draw some conclusions. But among those reviews that I found, some people say it's a great product while others say it doesn't work at all. So it's hard to tell you for sure how it actually works since I never tried it. But despite the few praises it has, I personally would not recommend it. I feel like it is too expensive for what it contains and for its actual quality. However, it surely works for some people, so it's totally up to you whether you want to try it or not. Luckily, Herbalife Joint Support doesn't have too many side effects according to its customer reviews. Now, it's true that I couldn't find many opinions on it, but considering its facts and formula, I'm pretty sure that it's quite safe from this point of view. That's because it has low doses in most ingredients and its formula is pretty basic overall. So it couldn't really cause you any side effects since its therapeutic effect isn't very potent and very high. Plus that its formula recommends taking the pills with meal, so this definitely decreases the risk of developing any side effects. The only problem of this supplement might be swallowing because, as I told you before, its pills are quite thick and large, so you might have a hard time swallowing them, but this is definitely not a side effect, so there's no point talking about it much here. Herbalife's products aren't very expensive in general. Instead, they have an above the average price, which is still affordable for most people. But when it comes to their joint supplement, it's actually quite pricey if you ask me. First of all, Herbalife products are currently sold through local distributors. This means that you can find the products via catalogs, and that's where you can also find their prices. Now, the only retailer that sells Herbalife products online is Amazon. But as I told you before, I found many complaints about its authenticity. This is why I wouldn't really advise you to buy it from there. If you really want to buy it, I would probably suggest going for a local distributor and try to find one, even though that's quite complicated because there has to be a person that distributes Herbalife products in your area. Getting back to this actual joint support, you should know that it costs $39.99 per bottle on Amazon. Shipping is free, and this is one monthly supply. Also, there are no discounts if you buy 2, 3 or more bottles at once. To tell you honestly, $30 per bottle is really expensive for a joint supplement, especially if it contains such weak ingredients as Herbalife product. So I personally would never buy this kind of supplement, especially when there are many cheaper alternatives on the market with much better formulas and ingredients. So in my opinion, Herbalife Joint Support is really overpriced and really expensive on the long term, especially since most of Herbalife's products have really affordable prices. Now, I only want to compare Herbalife's product with my top recommended joint supplement. I'm talking about a product from Nuzena called Joint Support Plus. Their standard prices are $40 per bottle for Herbalife and $30 per bottle for Nuzena. However, you can get a $10 discount code for Nuzena. This means you can get it for $20 per bottle. That's already pretty cheap for a joint supplement of this quality. Now, one more thing you should know is that Nuzena's formula is up to 5 times stronger. And getting back to their prices, Herbalife doesn't offer any discount for larger quantities, as I already told you. On the other hand, Nuzena's supplement costs as little as $15 per bottle if you buy a larger quantity, meaning more bottles at once. Plus, Nuzena has a big advantage over Herbalife and over other supplement brands. This is that it allows installments payment. You can pay any amount in 4 equal monthly installments, and you can get a bottle for about $7.50 per month. That's surely a really cheap price, and at this point I could not find any cheaper alternative when it comes to joint supplements. So if you want my cheaper alternative to Herbalife Joint Support, I would surely recommend this product from Nuzena because it has an amazing formula and the lowest price I could find for this quality. So it's definitely not the only product that works and not the only cheap product on the market, but compared to many other supplements, it's a lot less expensive and it really has the best price I could find. Now, getting back to Herbalife Joint Support, I honestly think that it is way too expensive and way too pricey for its actual quality. It costs $30 per bottle, and this price could be even higher if bought from local distributors. So if you want my advice, I would surely not buy this joint supplement, but this is definitely your choice and it's totally up to you whether you want to try it out or not. If you think that it is worth the price, if you think that it is worth $40 per bottle, it's totally fine for me. Go ahead and give it a try. If I had to sum up my opinion on Herbalife Joint Support in 3 conclusions, here's what I would point out. First of all, its formula is pretty weak and basic. Its ingredients don't have any clinical trials behind, they don't have any major benefits when it comes to joint pain, and overall their doses are quite low, so it's not a formula that I could pretty much trust in. Secondly, the product sold on Amazon might be a fake version, according to some users. Apparently, the seller there isn't exactly Herbalife, so there might be another person selling fake products claiming that they are original. And lastly, Herbalife's product is extremely overpriced and expensive for its actual quality and for what it contains. So in terms of price, it's really a product that I would not recommend any soon. So is Herbalife Joint Support worth buying? Honestly, not really. It's surely not the worst joint supplement I came across, but it's also far from the quality one, so I personally could not recommend it. It has a pretty weak formula with basic ingredients. Its pills are thick, large, and really hard to swallow. It's also quite hard to find online, at least in a safe version, and its overall price is really high and it's really expensive for its actual quality. Now, keep in mind that it's definitely not a scam since it's made by Herbalife, that is a reputable and trustworthy producer. It couldn't be possibly a scam. And there are some users who claim that it actually helps, so this supplement surely works in some cases. But compared to other products from the market, it's surely not as good and not as worth buying, so I couldn't possibly recommend it. So that was pretty much my opinion on it. I really hope that you could find some useful info, and in case you have any questions or any personal experience with this supplement, I would surely love to hear them. So make sure to leave a comment below and I will gladly answer. That was pretty much it for today. I hope you enjoyed this review and see you next time.